When is the right time to start wholesale? That's on everybody's mind, certainly as an OA seller. In today's video, we go over a clip from my podcast with Sasha T. I get to ask her so many questions about wholesale, including why creating a website is essential for wholesalers. You won't want to miss that part, so make sure you stick to the end. Not going to waste any more time in your video. Going from OA to wholesale, how Sasha T did it, going on now. What is your day-to-day or your weekly schedule when it comes to wholesale? I'm really interested because I'm starting now, so it's like, literally tell me, what do you think I should be doing Monday through Friday, assuming I already have a list of like 100 brands I want to contact?
So I'm not really sure like how to tell you to structure it, but like I can tell you kind of what we did and how we were able to open accounts. And yeah, I'll tell you like what it looked like in terms of time. Okay, so basically how everything kind of started. Me and Chris had already discussed this last year. We were like 2023 is going to be the year that we start doing wholesale. So basically as of this summer, we were like, okay, we're finally going to like just dive deep into wholesale and start like preparing things. At that time, Chris was actually doing a little bit more. He was focusing a little bit more on the wholesale, and like Chris had already done some wholesale before me and him ever merged anything. So he already had, I think, 1 or 2 wholesale accounts that he had previously already figured out and like how to open them. Also during that time, Chris was also still dealing with those wholesale orders and I was doing strictly OA. I had also opened some wholesale accounts on my personal account before, but like I never really found good products from them. They were just like not really that great. I never really had much success with wholesale before. Basically what we did, well, Chris, I'll give him the credit. He did most of the work for this, but basically Chris went through every single product that we've ever purchased. Okay. So we make a spreadsheet. I'm sure you've seen it from our course, but we make a spreadsheet where we fill in every single purchase we've ever made, every single brand we've ever purchased from, every single store everything's plugged in. So we have this giant database of everything we've ever bought. Also, if you go onto your Amazon Seller Central account in your inventory, if you don't delete your listings, you can see everything that you've ever bought. So basically what we did is we went through Chris did this part. I'll give him the credit. So he filled in this entire spreadsheet with every single brand we've ever bought. He put them from A to Z. And then after that, we spent I think it took us a solid 2 weeks. We also had a friend who was like interested in wholesale too, so he was helping us. We literally filled in the spreadsheet. It literally took us hours. And basically what we did, I'm sure you did this too, because you said you also have a big list of your suppliers and stuff that you need to contact. So for every single brand, let's say it's Crayola, what we did is we would plug Crayola into Google and we'd write Crayola, either wholesaler, Crayola supplier, Crayola distributor. Like those are 3 terms you can use. We obviously put Canada usually just because we sell in Canada. You can also put B2B. So Crayola B2B, I've learned like sometimes, and I had tested it out, sometimes I would find results. I forget I think it's business to business. Yeah. And so I learned that sometimes if you don't put B2B, like I wasn't getting the same results. So this took us so long to go through. So for every single brand name, we would type Crayola wholesaler, Crayola distributor, Crayola supplier, Crayola B2B, and we would try to find suppliers / distributors or directly from Crayola, basically to be able to open wholesale accounts with either the brand or the supplier. So we did this for every single brand we've ever bought from before. We have, I don't even know how many brands there are. We haven't even finished like contacting all of them. But basically it took us hours and hours to complete all of that research. We also so we made a list of like the contact information for the actual brand directly. And then we also made a list of like, I guess, I don't know if it's third party, but like basically suppliers on the side that will supply you that brand. So that's what we did. Then we used I think it's called a CRM. It's like a software that will send out emails. But then we used that. Chris did that part. He used the help of ChatGPT, by the way, to help him write some just emails to contact the companies. So Chris, basically while Chris was doing that, I was still maintaining the OA orders. And so I spent the whole year buying iHerb products, and Chris would spend $25K in one sitting in an email. And I was just like, this is so unfair. It would take me so long to spend that amount, you know? So when iHerb started kind of blocking our orders, that's when me and Chris were evaluating. We were like, you know what? But OA is taking so long anyways. We evaluated Chris's wholesale products versus my OA products. We were like, the amount of time I put in compared to him versus how much I spent compared to him, it just didn't make sense to continue OA. So when the iHerb situation happened, it was kind of a push for us to start doing it even faster. And yeah, so we contacted a couple of companies. We're still not done with all of them. We've opened a couple of new accounts with Canadian suppliers. Also, if you want me to go even more in depth, we actually opened a website. It's a front to show to suppliers to be like, this this is where this is our sales channel essentially. And honestly, like
Is it a Shopify website?
Yeah.
So you have, technically, if I were to go on it, I could legitimately buy a product.
Yes. And then if you do buy a product, we would have to do drop shipping to send it to you.
And that you already, so the listings that you have on your website, I'm assuming are products that you already sell on Amazon through other distributors, or is it you're just taking the price list of the distributors and just uploading it on that, knowing they're going to do drop shipping for you?
So we actually don't have any of our own products on the website.
Okay.
So our friend who we have a friend who knows how to make websites. So, and he's also the one that was helping us like with Wholesale, and we were showing him some things with Amazon. So he made us a website, and it's a Shopify website. None of the products are products we actually sell. I don't even know where he got them from. They're like actually just random products.
Are they products that come from China, and you're basically doing the whole like TikTok drop shipping, but on a front website?
No, it's like the ordinary, like we have the ordinary products. We have like, I just can't think of any other brands, but we have like real brand product. And so like we haven't had any sales actually go through this website, but our friend has. I don't know if he put ads on his website or not, but maybe he did. But he did do some drop shipping with like well.ca.
It's a front, right?
Yeah, and like we're thinking, maybe this website one day could actually become a supplier or something like that. Like that's something that's really cool about having a website, and you could potentially build something on that. But we're really just using it right now as a front. And like I'll see a lot of tweets, and people are like, oh, you don't need a website to like you can sell it, or like you can tell them that you're selling on Amazon. But well, actually, I'll tell you a story. So I actually opened my first account myself completely on the phone, and I was shaking. I was like,
that's what I was going to ask you. I was waiting a little bit because I know that you don't like talking on the phone. That was going to be interesting to see you in Wholesale. So
yeah. Yeah, so Chris, when he was sending out the emails, a lot of the time they would be like, "Oh, can you call me?" So Chris was handling most of the calls just because like I was doing the OA orders, he was doing more of the calls. And Chris doesn't mind being on the phone. Also because because the corporation is in Chris's name, technically we were like, "Oh, it makes more sense for Chris to do it." But anyways, so Chris was actually on vacation for the past month, and we have this one product. It's actually it became our best product right now. And we have 4 different variations of this product, or like a couple of different variations. So we actually were buying this product from Walmart, and then like the supplier actually sent us an email saying, "Hi, we saw you placed a large order. Call us." So Chris had called them. This was a couple of months ago. So we had opened a wholesale account with this random company. They're from somewhere in Canada. Then they didn't have like a couple of the variations in stock while Chris was away. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And they didn't sell them at Walmart anymore. So I was like, where am I going to order them? So I ended up doing some research. I did the same thing I told you before. I put like the name of the company, Wholesale, blah, blah, blah. I ended up finding a wholesaler in Montreal. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because like they're actually located here. So I ended up calling the person, and I was like literally shaking. I was like, how am I going to do this? I was like rehearsing what I would say over and over again. I ended up leaving a voicemail because like he didn't answer, and I was like, I'm sure it was the worst voicemail you'd ever hear. But he ended up calling me back the next day, and like I just told him the name of the corporation. I told him the name of the website, and I was just like, hi, this is Sasha calling on behalf of Chris, blah blah blah. This is our business. Or basically, I was saying that I was the procurement officer, and so I handle everything sales, is what I told him. And so I was able to open that account with him. And the way that I did it, or like the way that it happened, is literally the moment I told him the name of the corporation, the moment I told him the name of the website, he was searching them. Like he was on the computer on the phone. The moment he saw that it was a legit website, it has like phone numbers, it has an address, it has a bunch of stuff. And he also saw that the corporation was real. Immediately, he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And like, there was not a single other question asked.
So that was your first phone call with the wholesaler?
Yes.
And are we going to be doing more phone calls with wholesalers?
Yeah. I need to do it now.
So actually, before I ask you the results from the short-term expansion towards wholesale, how are you guys scanning these price lists? Are you guys using automation tools, or are you guys going one by one? Are you guys doing this yourself, giving it to a VA? Talk to me about that whole operation.
Okay, that's a very good question, because that's something that we at first were like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? So I had actually, we did some research on softwares. I forget the name of the one that people use. I wish I could remember, but there's a software that scans price lists. We had actually done a free trial, because I think there was a free trial for like one price list or something. But then we ended up, like, we just didn't think it was worth it, because I had made a tweet asking like, hey guys, what's the best price list scanning software? And literally like 80% of the people were like, do it manually. They're like, do it manually or have your VA do it manually.
That's what I heard too.
And I was like, shit. But anyways, it's not like we haven't been doing a lot of things manually anyways. So like I was kind of like, whatever, it's fine. But basically the way that we've been scanning them is with Seller Amp. And like literally you just copy and paste it one by one. And sometimes they'll have the, like it's unfortunately that's the answer. But sometimes they'll have the UPC codes. So if you copy and paste the UPC code, it's a little bit faster and you just plug it into Seller Amp, it's gonna pop up. It was not too bad. Like it's the same way that we do manual sourcing on a website, pretty much. And some of them actually have websites too. Like sometimes they'll have their products on a website kind of thing. So like Seller Amp can actually pull up the data. But some of them will be like an Excel form or like an Excel sheet kind of thing. But if you have the UPC code, it's really not complicated to search it with Seller Amp.
So in October 2024,
yes,
what's the business looking like? Is it keep it 50-50 or do you want to start leaning heavily into wholesale?
I really think that wholesale is just a more like, I don't know if I want to use the word legit, but like it just is a more legit type of business. In the sense that like it's like you're buying the products from an actual supplier. I don't know even know if I'm explaining it right, but it's just like,
no, you are. It is.
Like I'm not buying it from Walmart, like I'm actually like I'm buying it from like an exclusive supplier properly. They have like, I don't know, it just feels more legit. Because like, when you're buying from Walmart, people are like, oh, you're scammers because you're buying from Walmart, so like when you're buying wholesale, like, and it sounds stupid, but like when you're explaining wholesale to somebody versus explaining OA, like wholesale just sounds so much more legit.
Well, we're going against TOS of websites, right? We're not technically allowed to be reselling. It's not illegal, but we're not allowed to do it. So having
some websites have restrictions and they don't want you to be reselling. So
at the end of the day, if you want to get around the system, even if you're banned, right? You mentioned it before, we're both somewhat banned from iHerb. And I'm sure if we tried hard enough with different proxy or whatever, we can get around it.
Yeah.
But nothing wrong with OA. I love OA. OA is what gets you started, but 100% it's undeniable that wholesale is a more legitimized business model because you will have business relationship. It is, you're doing B2C and B2B at the same time, right? You're going to the consumer via Amazon, but you're also dealing with other businesses. If you want to talk about OA, like, okay, what describes a business? Is it something that is sellable? Well, I'm sure having exclusive contracts with specific brands is a lot more sellable than saying, hey, by the way, this is my business of reselling. I want you to sell my business. Well, if you take the head of operations out of the business, if you can't produce any cash flow, well, it's worth nothing. Whereas contracts with specific brands, well, that's worth something. That's
way more valuable for sure. Yeah, because anyone can do OA. That's the difference. Like anyone in the world can do OA. It's like you're just a normal customer buying from a store. Whereas like wholesale just feels more exclusive, more legit. And again, to go back to the iHerb situation, it's like there are ways to kind of go around it. I've made a new account. I've bought stuff, but like the second push was the fact that most of the products from iHerb are supplements and like vitamins, beauty products. Most of these in Canada especially, oh my god, they have so many issues. Like it's just the most, like we literally, I'm not even joking, like when I had the issue with iHerb starting to block they were blocking most of my orders. Right after that happened, maybe a month later, like a good 15 of our listings completely got shut down. And I was like, thank the Lord that iHerb started blocking my orders right before this happened, because if they wouldn't have blocked my orders, I would have been ordering like hundreds of units.
I think I have enough beauty products in my house to start my own website for a front and say because I do have those products, just because it is what it is. And that's kind of a reason why I went into wholesale and why I didn't want to take the steps to go around the situation. But at the end of the day, for me, I think wholesale is a lot harder because it's a lot more competitive in the way you're selling yourself, you're selling your company. And for me, I'm always been a competitive person and I think I can excel at that. It's not for everybody. And wholesale, like I said before, is not bad. OA is not bad at all. I love OA and I think anybody could do it, like you said. But often in OA, we're always talking about, okay, get products with a moat, right? With like other people having a hard time to get it. Well, that is almost the definition of wholesale. It's automatically, if you get a good wholesaler or a good distributor or brand direct deal, well, you now have access to pricing that no one else. And honestly, I think wholesale in Canada, at least from a bird's eye view, kind of looks like the ultimate move, because wholesale in the United States is, well, obviously you're always going to get the volume there, but the competition, I think, is whereas in Canada, we have the advantage of one, not having as many wholesalers as the United States and get United States brands. And if we're creative enough, and we saw that last episode of the podcast, there's there's ways to get those to Canada, even if they don't ship it, right? With customs agents, right? So we have a lot of ways of getting products and having that moat around our products that could lead us to a business model that, well, can print you potentially 10K plus net with enough hard work.
Yeah, and there's a lot less people like buying stuff in Canada, but there's a lot less people selling in Canada. And like even a lot of the Canadian sellers, their first instinct is to go to the US. So a lot of actual Canadian Amazon sellers don't even sell in Canada. So that goes to show you that there, like, in my opinion, there is a lot of room, especially with wholesale. Like I don't know many people who are doing wholesale like on a really high scale in Canada. Also, I wanted to mention something. So like another reason why wholesale is just like, I just think it makes the most sense. Maybe not for a beginner though, because I really think it's important for people to learn how to choose products before spending a lot of money. With wholesale, they kind of expect you to spend a lot, like large amounts. So it's not easy for a beginner. And obviously like you shouldn't be buying more than 20 units of a product until you really know how to choose a product. So wholesale is definitely for later on, but the more money you have to spend, the more issues you're going to have with OA. So like if you're constantly dealing, like if I'm spending hours of my day placing orders, literally for the next day, all of those orders to be canceled, and like sure, there are little ways to go around it, but it's like if the chance is always there that it could potentially be canceled, it's like, again, it's like, why am I putting my entire business in, like putting it at the risk of the chance that everything's just going to be canceled the next day? And that happened to us with a couple of different websites. Like we're banned from Sephora, we're banned from iHerb, we're banned from Home Depot. I could keep going. Like I think there's four. I think we have four so far, 4 bans. I can't remember. Oh, well.ca. Basically, my point is that the more money you have, because the reason why my iHerb order started like really getting canceled is because I was spending so much. Like literally to the point that I spent like the day. I think that's what triggered all of this. But I was really on a roll one day, and I spent like 13K in one day, and I really think that's what pushed them over the edge to starting to block our orders. But obviously, that was a stupid move on my end. Usually, I would spread it out a little bit more. I didn't have a choice but to keep restocking that product that day, or like all of those products that day, because I was like, we need them to be in stock. So it's like the more items you have, especially if it's all coming from one website, that's probably a bad idea. But it's like the more money you have, the more orders you need to place to like fulfill these, like to restock the products basically. It's just, it doesn't make sense to keep doing OA. It makes so much more sense to put your money into a supplier that will actually fulfill your orders, because you're allowed to buy 50 units at a time. It just doesn't make sense to keep wasting your time. And like that doesn't mean we're gonna quit OA. Like we'll for sure still have OA on the side, I think, forever, like if we can still find good OA deals. But again, this goes back to me and Chris evaluating Chris's wholesale orders versus my OA orders, like who was spending the most in the least amount of time, making the most amount of profit. It just, all of the work that I was doing, it didn't make sense, you know?
Yeah, well, I think any catalog that you analyze of an OA seller, you'll find that 20% or less of their ASINs are making 80% of their profit because of insane ROI and sales volume. And if you would just keep that 15-20% of products doing OA and supplement the rest with wholesale products, that is a recipe for success.
Watch the full podcast of FBA Unboxed live now.